I told you this was in Rhode Island. Warwick. We're actually talking about the Warwick slasher. You guys probably saw that in the headline.
You did put that in there. I was wondering if we were going.
This neighborhood that we're going in tonight is called Buttonwoods. How cute is that?
Buttonwoods. It's cute as a button.
I know. I love that. So this September 4th, 1989, Labor Day weekend. Actually, Labor Day had just passed. And a mother and her daughter, they're in the neighborhood of Buttonwoods. They're going to visit the mother's other daughter because they hung out on Labor Day. Everything was fine. She hung out with her daughter and her 2 granddaughters, but she's been calling for the past 3 days and has gotten nothing. So now she's worried. Mom's worried that daughter is not doing okay. She's not answering the phone. Something's not right. And mom is also separated. Okay. It's good to know. So the mother gets her other daughter to go with her. They go over to her other daughter's house in Buttonwoods. This is in Warwick, Rhode Island.
I've heard of Buttonwoods.
It's just like a subdivision.
I mean, everything in Rhode Island is like less than an hour away because it's just such a small state, you know? It's tiny. Teeny tiny.
I honestly think this is the first killer we've covered in Rhode Island.
Probably.
I cannot for the life of me think of a case that we've even covered from Rhode Island. I honestly can't.
People don't stay in Rhode Island.
What do you mean? Why not? Why wouldn't they stay in Rhode Island?
There's not a lot there. Small.
What's the population of Rhode Island? Do you know?
I don't know.
95 Metropolitan Drive. This is the house right here that we're going to tonight. This cute little car. Oh my God. Are you serious? Yo, clean out your car, man. That is terrible. I mean, that shit's in the driver's seat too, isn't it?
Is it laundry? Trash.
Jesus Christ.
All right. Well, that was interesting. The killer's car? No, can't be.
Let's back out. So this is the neighborhood right there. You see the house. So it's pretty dense, and there's a lot of houses in here. This is, at the time at least, upper middle class. This is around noontime. The mother knocks on the door, and she's with her other daughter because they have no idea why the sister will not pick up the phone. Her name is Joan Heaton, 39 years old. She has 2 kids, 2 small girls, a 10-year-old and 8-year-old. No one's picking up the phone. Their car's at the house. You just saw the house. The car's at the house. Knock, knock, knock. Nothing. Eventually, they find their way in through a window, and they're hit immediately with what? A baseball bat. No, I'm just kidding. They're hit immediately with that putrid smell. I said it's been 3 days. It's been 3 days since she has talked to her daughter or the grandchildren. 3 days. So 3 days, and this is in September, the 1st of September. 3 days of sitting in a house, not being ventilated. I mean, the air's on, but it's not, pumping too hard. There's decomposing bodies, or at least a body. They're hit with this strong putrid smell. Now, they don't know what it is because they've never smelt death before. And they don't even think that the daughter is dead. I mean, it's got to be anything else. A mother doesn't go into the house thinking the daughter's dead. At least I hope not. She's probably it's probably in the back of her mind for sure.
If she hasn't heard from her in days, I would imagine that's the worst case scenario,
Yeah. But what could happen in this middle-class white neighborhood, right after Labor Day? It can't be that bad. Joan Heaton, 39 years old, was the first one that they saw. She was in the kitchen. She was bloody. She was covered with a blanket. That hit them. That sight, they just stopped because there in the kitchen is a blanket that should be on the bed. It is not on the bed. It is on this person, this woman. You can tell by her outline. And that woman, once they pulled the cover back, was the daughter, and she was quite dead, and an unspeakable scene it was. She was stabbed 57 times.
Jesus.
She was in a short nightshirt and underwear clad, and, quote, blood soaking into the carpet beneath her, end quote. She sustained 57 stab wounds. Joan, a little bit about her, we'll talk more about her, but she's going through a separation. She's got the kids. She has a house that she is trying to make home for her daughters. And the one thing that she's been wanting to splurge on, the one thing is a nice set of kitchen knives. The cutlery set, just like your Cutco knives. Extremely sharp knives. She had just bought them. The receipt is still on the bar.
Wow.
She had just bought these knives.
She literally just bought them.
These knives were used to stab her 57 times.
One knife or various knives?
That's a really good question. 6 knives.
That's weird.
Yeah.
That's really weird. Oh, Martin remembers this one.
You have requested so many.
Oh, man.
You
Hey,
actually
Natasha.
just request. All right, so here's how I do stories, just really quick. If you guys are wondering like why I'm not doing your story, it's not that your story's not interesting or whatever. It's me. It's not you. It's me. Like, I have to be in a certain mood. And a lot of times I'll literally research a whole story like I've already done. I have a story that I've already researched, and then I just lose interest in it. I don't know why I hate it, but I won't do anything. I refuse. I can't like physically continue the story. I don't know. It's frustrating as hell. I feel like to be a good storyteller, you really got to be in the story, you know?
Yeah.
And if I'm just not in it, man, I can't.
You don't think it's going to be good?
Yeah. That's the sight to see.
Blanket in the middle of the kitchen.
Well, it's leading up to the kitchen.
Okay.
It's more than the hall.
She's under the blanket.
She's under the blanket.
Carpet soaked in blood.
Well, all right, tell me right quick, since you've done this for 7 years, what does that mean? What does it mean when someone who kills someone covers them up with a blanket?
They didn't want to see the body, or they were like, I don't know, they were either ashamed of it, or
yeah, so
they thought it was almost like too gruesome, so they wanted to cover it up.
Yeah, there you go. Same thing. So when you go into a crime scene and the body's not covered up, you're dealing with a real psychopath. I mean, that's pretty much how it is, right?
We like experts in this because we've been doing this for 7 years.
I mean, I do feel like...
Wow.
I mean, I've read so many true crime books.
This is crazy. If you think about it, like my career in true crime is almost as long as like my actual professional career.
Yeah.
Your career in true crime is almost as long as your military career was.
Oh, I thought you were going to say it's almost as long as 10 inches.
More to come, little big bro. Love it, Martin. Keep him coming.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So the killer was ashamed. They felt bad.
Mother and daughter, the other daughter who's with mom, they're going to check on their daughter, right?
Because they haven't heard from her.
And
well, the house smells.
What else did I say? Is not only Joan Heaton in that house, she has a 10-year-old and an 8-year-old.
Oh.
A 10-year-old is capable of knowing something's wrong and to go to the phone or knowing mom's dead.
I mean, this is 1989, you said, so it's not like
phones didn't exist.
Social media, they weren't as maybe connected with people as they are today.
No, I'm saying
but still would able to pick up the house
if a
phone.
10-year-old walks into the kitchen and sees mom dead, she's gonna know what to do. She's
call
not
911. Yeah.
Exactly. So where is she?
Problematic.
Problematic,
concerning.
Yeah. Well, she is in the house along with Melissa Heaton, which is, I've seen two conflicting sources. One said 7, the other said 8.
Okay.
8-year-old and a 10-year-old. The reason they weren't seen right off the bat with mom is because they're further down the hall, covered up, rolled up in a rug. The youngest child, Melissa, 7, was stabbed so brutally. But I'm just going to tell you, between the 3 females that were in this attack, mom and the 2 daughters, mom 39, daughters 10 and 8. Between all 3 of them, 120 stab wounds. Mom, 57 times, and then the rest go to the kids. Melissa Heaton, the youngest of the sisters, was stabbed so brutally. And I'll always say this, right? And this is true. It's in the autopsy report. Usually it's stabbed so brutally that the tip of the knife is bent. Not in this case. Number one, I said these are brand new knives. This is a brand new top of the line cutlery set. It wasn't bent, but that knife in her throat, the entire blade was broken off inside of her throat.
Holy shit.
That is how brutal and how angry this 7-year-old girl was stabbed.
Oh my God, that's awful.
Her skull crushed. The weapon to do that was the kitchen stool laying right by her body.
From the Unknown Darkness by Craig O. McCrary, it appeared that the youngest daughter, 8-year-old Melissa, had seen her mother struggling with someone and, when intercepted, had been running for the phone. She'd been stabbed repeatedly and had her head bashed in with a footstool, covered in blood next to her.
120 stab wounds between mom and 2 girls.
Wow.
Joan, stabbed 57 times, killed in the kitchen. Jennifer, 10 years old, stabbed 62 times. Witnessed, she was the first to witness the mother being killed, assaulted, and fighting back. All right. She wakes up first because when this is happening, it's in the middle of the night. I said when they're found 3 days later during the day, but when the murder happened, it was wee hours, right? Mm-hmm. So Jennifer Heaton, 10 years old, hears something in the kitchen, mom fighting off this stranger, this intruder, and she runs for the phone, and that's when the intruder comes for her as well. She was stabbed 62 times after witnessing her own mother being stabbed to death.
Jesus Christ.
Melissa Heaton, the 8-year-old youngest child, skull crushed, stabbed 30 times. She also witnessed the murder of mom and sister. She was the last to be killed. Between all three, 127 stab wounds with 6 different knives. Wow. Kind of crazy.
It makes you wonder with the multiple knives if it was multiple people and all of those wounds, was there more than one person involved?
I mean, yes, but think about it.
They got 2 hands.
Yeah, but that's saying that multiple people are okay with stabbing to death a 7-year-old.
True.
And usually you don't find more than one person okay with that.
I don't know. We've covered a couple couples, That's about all I can think of.
Let's talk about what was at the scene. Bloody handprint. One bloody handprint.
Okay.
The window was open, ajar, above the kitchen. And it's one of those windows that is higher above the kitchen. So you would have to be athletic. It's not just stand, open the window, jump in. It's pull a bucket over, get on said bucket, open the window, do a little jump, do a pull-up motion, get yourself in. So since the mother and daughter who are in the crime scene now, seeing their dead daughter and granddaughters, they didn't unlock the door. The door was locked. They got in through a side window, okay? But they had to break it open, break the little latch. What I'm trying to say is this house in Buttonwoods was pretty buttoned up. The only window that was ajar was right above the kitchen, and you'd have to be athletic to get it.
Okay.
This is important because let's build a profile. Okay, whoever did this is athletic.
Okay.
All right. It seemed like this is what happened. He jumped up, or she jumped through the window, the smaller window, and beneath the window, inside of the house, in the kitchen, was a kitchen table. The suspect, the killer, puts his foot down on the table to get, he's entering the home while everyone's sleeping. Mm-hmm. This is in the wee hours. He puts his foot down, he stands on the table. He is being extremely quiet, cat-like, doing whatever he wants to do there. He's owning the house type of thing, trying to be quiet, doesn't want to wake anyone up. And the table breaks, causing a loud noise. Mom hears the noise. Mom comes into the kitchen, sees this stranger. That tells you another piece of information for the detectives who are trying to figure out this case. Whoever did this was climbing through this window quietly, had stepped on the table, and must weigh more than the table can support if the table is broken. Mm-hmm. So now you got 2 things, and that's it was a pretty large table. This suspect is athletic. He's got to weigh over 240 pounds. He's a big boy to do this.
Okay.
That's the 2 things they got right now. There's also, from what they're going to figure out, they don't know it yet, but they run all the forensic tests on the blood splatter, and they noticed one bloody spot that the blood was neither mom's or her daughter's.
Okay.
So perhaps a defensive wound. The killer had cut himself.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
It's gotta be the killer's. Yeah.
Exactly. That's huge.
That is huge.
Which means what? Well, if the killer cut himself because he did use 6 different knives, it would be kind of hard not to cut yourself. So much confusion, so much stabbing, 120 times.
That's a lot of knife wielding. Yeah.
You're looking for what? Maybe someone with a cut hand.
Yeah.
Or cut somewhere.
Arm or something. Yep.
So now you got 3 things you're looking for. Big guy, athletic. With a cut, probably on his hand, or somewhere where, whatever. There's also a sock print. This killer took his shoes off, entered the home, and left a sock print. This sock was a size 13.
Big feet.
Big feet. Thinking of that 10-inch thing.
I knew it. Me too.
Now, these are small town cops. I'm not trying to downplay their ability, because if it wasn't for this detective, if it wasn't for this cop and his determination to bring a killer to justice, then this wouldn't have been solved. But these are really smart cops. They're just not really trained for this. Like we said earlier, I cannot remember even one murder that we've covered in Rhode Island. They don't do murders.
Not many people.
Or at least in this section of Warwick and Buttonwoods. So he did what I think is very noble, this detective, Bill McDonald, and I wish a lot of other detectives would follow suit. Unfortunately, a lot of times they don't, but he contacted the FBI. You know, a lot of people don't want to do that because they don't want interference from another federal agency. They don't want the agency to take over their case. They don't want this, that, not get any credit, whatever it is.
Yeah.
He doesn't care. He just wants justice for Joan and her daughters. He asked the FBI for a profile because that was big in 1989. Mm-hmm. In fact, the book we're reading from tonight is from the FBI profiler who covered this case.
Ooh.
So one of the things that the profiler asked the detective is, okay, this, after seeing the crime scene footage, this is a savage, a brutal attack. This is terrible. It is violent, beyond violent. The knife was broken off. The blade was broken off into the 7-year-old's neck. It is extremely brutal, undescribable, unspeakable. Tell me, in your memory, has there been any other murders like this in this city of Warwick or even in Rhode Island that have been this savage? A break-in that leads to this savage murder. And Detective Bill McDonald says, well, actually, yeah, it has been. 2 years ago. Well, tell me about it.
I mean, that's crazy that it would be that specific, right? Like, you know what I mean? To have something so violent and brutal, and I would assume like some similar manner, like things, knife and you know, to the throat type stuff is the similar stuff.
Yeah.
As well as like the sock size, maybe.
This house that I'm showing you that we were just at is where the Heatons were murdered. So, okay, where did this other one happen? Maybe it is related. Maybe it's the same killer. Who knows? I mean, maybe. Well, it happened right here. Not even 5 houses down.
What? No.
Not even 5 houses down.
Wait, how did the police not get that?
Like I said, very small town, small cops, never dealt with a murder like this.
Wow.
The murder we're talking about now, 60 Inez Avenue, happened in 1987. It was 2 years prior. So we're going to go to that one right now.
What? That's crazy.
So, both savage. Do you think it's the same killer?
Yeah, sounds like it might be. Sounds like there might be a connection there. And I mean, that's a close perimeter for the killer to be working with.
Yeah, in Buttonwoods.
That's nuts. From the San Francisco Chronicle, Buttonwoods was paralyzed. Police combed the streets, neighbors padlocked their doors. The Heaton house was just a few hundred yards from the Spencer home, and the question hung thick over the tidy working-class neighborhood. What kind of monster was living in their midst?
July 27th, 1987. You know, what are we dealing with here? 5 houses down. 5 houses down. A brutal, savage, unsolved murder. 60 Inez Drive in the same Buttonwood subdivision. Okay? 2 years earlier, 5 houses down. Victim, 27-year-old Rebecca Spencer. She had dropped her kids off with their father. She was also going through a thing. Her husband lived with her brother, and the husband was a security guard. All right. His alibi checks out, valid. It's not the husband. The husband does come to drop the kids off because it was his turn to watch them, and he had to go to a security job. But like I said, he also lives with Rebecca's brother.
Okay.
He comes back July 27th to drop the kids off, and Rebecca does not answer the door. Same thing, right?
Yep.
He goes into the house sees a scene that is unspeakable, much like the Heaton scene. There were boxes all around, which is normal because Rebecca was about to start her new life. She, in 24 hours from then, was supposed to move out, had already got a new place. Her house had already been sold, all that stuff. She was going to start her new life, right? Mm-hmm. However, those boxes seemed to be covering her body, almost like she was hidden behind this wall of moving boxes. There, his wife laid destroyed, savagely attacked. 58 times she was stabbed with a knife.
Like almost identical.
Almost identical. Joan was stabbed 57 times.
What in the world?
And now you see this woman, Rebecca, 2 years prior to the Heaton murders, stabbed 58 times.
Wow.
Now, that murder was unsolved.
Clearly.
Okay. So
the guy's still out 2 years later. He's still walking around the same fucking neighborhood.
The detectives have no clue.
No fucking clue.
I don't want to talk bad about the detective. I mean, come on. They're small town cops, man.
Okay, to not make that connection though.
But he did reach out to the FBI.
Maybe it was because they realized they have a potential serial killer.
One of the things let me read the FBI profile.
Okay.
Because
I feel bad saying how did you not make the fucking connection?
I'm sure the FBI was like, what the fuck kind of type of shit. It's like literally.
Well, a little bit. It's like,
It's not even a block.
Where do we start? Okay, like clearly this is someone in a radius, a very small radius. I mean, that's not that's not rocket science. So maybe I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt and just say that it's not that they didn't realize that there was a pattern, but that they realized they were just in general in over their heads because I didn't catch the first attack.
Yeah. And remember, you said you've been doing this for 7 years, so.
I'm more of an expert.
I will say, well.
Yeah, they did. They did. And now it is a serial killer. It is a serial killer on the loose.
You said something very interesting.
What?
A serial killer in this radius?
Yeah.
So he must live in the community?
I don't think it would be a traveling person who would come back to the same fucking neighborhood.
To Buttonwoods?
To Buttonwoods, fucking Warwick, Rhode Island.
I know, right? Kind of weird.
Kind of weird. I would say we're looking, a mile within that perimeter there.
Poor Detective McDonald.
An athletic size 13. I don't know. This isn't.
I know.
This. Again, Rhode Island's small.
I know. Okay, I know, dude.
This is not This should be very narrow. Very narrow.
One of the main important things that the FBI profile did uncover, which, I mean, I would say in hindsight is obvious, but I don't know. Is it obvious to you guys? The killer lives in the neighborhood. I mean, the house is...
Yes, that was obvious to me.
The house
Let me say.
The homes weren't even a block apart.
I'm not trying to laugh.
It is
on purpose.
It is,
but that is kind of funny. That was not. I mean, okay. I would say here's what I will say. With one murder, it would be hard to maybe confirm that. Two, it's like, okay, we're looking at a tight area here, right? Okay, so I wouldn't maybe necessarily make that a slam dunk after the first murder in 1987. Is that fair?
Well, tell me this. What can you gain? What information can you gain from someone who kills in the same area like this? Like, what is an attribute that this killer doesn't have access to? Transportation.
Okay, so they don't have a car?
Yeah, or a lack of transportation, right? Because he's not going...
He's not even going 10 minutes away. He's going 10 houses away. Not even.
Here's the FBI profile, which FBI profiles are notoriously wrong. I usually don't even include them, but a lot of times...
They were so far off on the profile they did of you.
I mean, it was right, sort of, but I mean, the reason that FBI profiles are sometimes detrimental is because it gives cops this
a bias. It's a bias.
A bias, not only a bias, but this narrow vision. So they're only looking for this guy, right?
But I think they can often be pretty accurate in some of the description.
Yeah. So the FBI profile a man, obviously, male, late teens, white, family issues, bad background, athletic, with a cut on his finger, obviously.
Teenager. Interesting.
Late teens. The police go door to door asking. Now we're going back to the Heaton murder. Okay. So they found, there's probably a link between these two houses that you can throw a stone and hit the other one.
Maybe.
So let's go to the other houses and ask around to see if they know anything. But more importantly, let's keep a keen eye and see if anyone has a little cut, sliced-diced their fingers, Let's see if anyone's bandaged up. The cops go to every house. Nothing. However, walking towards them was a 15-year-old black kid. His name was Craig Price, 6 foot tall, heavy frame, football player looking frame. In fact, he was a football player on the high school football team. Very friendly, extremely nice, generous. He lived a few doors down and his finger was gashed open. Not only that, he has a history of breaking and entering and being a peeping Tom.
Oh boy.
Which he has been arrested for, and theft.
Oh boy. He was right under their nose. He was walking down the street, you said?
Yeah. This is a map of where these houses intersect here. These are the 2 murder houses, and this is the killer's house.
Oh, my God.
A 15-year-old. That's
right down the street.
No, he's next door.
Yeah,
That's next door.
Like, is there even a house in between?
No.
Oh, my God.
So, yeah, he's next door.
Wow.
So,
for real? They really couldn't figure that out?
Well, actually, his home was 76 Inez Avenue. So
there could have been a house in between. I mean, you can't tell that for sure.
Yeah, where's the Google Earth? Let me see. I'm trying not to have my thing die, but 76 would be, so this is 60 right here. 76 would be...
one house in between.
Yeah, one house in between. It'd be right here. Oh, 76 right here. 76, and one house in between. Exactly. I mean, it's not even like that band 3 doors down, because it's not even that far. It's literally 2 doors down.
Yeah.
He matched the profile. I mean, pretty spot on. But
sure did.
This can't be the guy. You know what? If this is the killer.
So you know what they say about, it's what is it, Occam's razor, right?
Yeah, the most logical explanation is probably the best.
Yeah.
But this is a white neighborhood. Now, Craig grew up in white neighborhoods. He did not have a bad background, a very loving Christian family, but he does have charges for breaking and entering and being a peeping Tom.
I mean, those are some serious things.
Which I feel like they could have looked at to solve the first murder, right?
Yeah, looking at the vicinity and anyone with a crime record. But maybe it didn't come up because he was a juvenile? Like, would that not show up if they, they just didn't think of it? I don't know.
I mean, those records aren't sealed to the police, though, are they? That wouldn't make sense.
No, but maybe they just didn't imagine an underage person would stab someone so violently.
Yeah,
and especially he hadn't necessarily done a violent crime. I don't know.
Actually,
just a theory.
Actually, he had 2 months earlier. He assaulted his own sister, indicating a propensity towards being violent towards
women.
Yes, women, but also people that are weaker than him. Let me show you this guy. He is pretty large and in charge.
Yeah, you're right, Desiree. In a small town, police would probably just know. Like, if he was a kid that came into the station a lot, you're right.
Yeah. You can see how big this guy is right here. Pretty big dude.
How old is he?
He was 15.
In this picture?
Yeah.
No.
15. So what does that mean?
Jesus Christ.
So what does that mean? He was 15 in this picture when he got arrested. So go back 2 years.
When he committed the murder? The first murder?
13 years old.
He is 15 in this photo.
Yes, he is 15 in this photo.
Holy shit, he eats his Wheaties. Oh my God, he looks like a grown man.
Yeah, dude, he's 15. He's got a baby face. What are you talking about?
He does have a baby face, but I mean, boys usually don't grow up until they're 17, 18, even then, you're lucky if you get your big boy muscles, He is, Brandon, he paid taxes and everything. Oh my God, he seriously looks like a grown fucking man. I would have guessed from that picture he was 20 years old.
Nope, he was 15 when he got arrested, which means he is, and at the time, this was 1989, I'm guessing this is still the case, but the youngest serial killer in U.S. history.
Wow. Yeah, he does look like a linebacker.
Well,
yeah.
he was, so...
What was his position? Is that what he played?
I don't know. It didn't come up his position, but his moniker was Iron Man.
Damn.
Now, he was a nice kid. His family, if you look at the family background, working class, devout Baptist, third child.
Where did it go wrong?
He has a comedic personality. He is helpful. If he's at the grocery store, and these are stories that people would tell. He's at the grocery store and some old lady is trying to put in her groceries. He's the first one over there. He doesn't even recognize color because he grew up in a white neighborhood and he is just like everyone else, right? He's funny. He's got A's and B's. He is passionate about sports, football, basketball. But by 13, he had already acquired a juvenile criminal record. Breaking and entering, robbery, assault, peeping Tom at 13. That's not good.
No.
He also had began experimenting with marijuana.
The devil's lettuce.
Or like people in the South call it, dope.
It'll make you do bad things.
Or drugs. Drugs. And
I feel like this was just one big commercial, like Dare commercial. This is your mind on drugs. Is that what this is all about?
She hits the pan.
Yeah.
Is this not a good story?
This is crazy.
Yeah.
I cannot believe he's fucking 15 in that picture.
What's the youngest? No, I'm talking about in the U.S., Martin. Is that still the case?
Serial killer.
Gotta
kill at least 3.
No, that is such a misconception. I thought you knew that. A serial killer does not
clearly
have
my
to...
7 years of experience does not make me an expert.
All right, a serial killer does have to kill 2, but it's not how many he kills. It's the likelihood that he is going to keep killing. Yeah, that, you know what I'm saying? So usually like 2 is that from the FBI. That's their... Now it was 3 at first. It was like, okay, 3 and then a serial killer. But when they're trying to map out serial killers, they learn that they only have to kill 2 because that's enough information for the detective to see a pattern. And being labeled a serial killer is all about spotting a pattern so you can see if there's a likelihood of doing it again. So that is what everyone gets wrong.
Interesting.
But yeah, crazy, right? In 1989, the youngest serial killer in FBI history, or in U.S. history. Nuts. Great family background, loving parents. He joined a gang though, and he's just a big kid. He's the nicest kid ever, but he's got a violent streak, and he likes to impose his stoutness on weaker individuals. And he's a peeping Tom. Now, he was experimenting with marijuana and LSD, and while he was peeping into women's windows, and there has been calls in the neighborhood about a peeping Tom. While he was doing that, he was probably high on both of those during the murder. At least that's what he said, which makes sense. I mean, like the 7-year-old's dead, right? You don't have to keep stabbing her,
Right.
But if you're on LSD, but I feel like it was more of not an excuse, but if you hear this guy talk in his interview, which I'm not going to play because I'm at 1%, but when he confesses to this, he doesn't have any remorse. But then again, he's only 15 at the time.
Okay. I grabbed her.
What happened then?
So I was just like trying to kill her.
So this is from WPRI. They actually not only got the confession sent to them anonymously, which there's like only 2 cops in the station, so it's probably easy to figure out who did that. But not only did they get the confession and made it public, but they also were responsible in getting Craig Price more prison time. Because what are you going to give him? What are you going to give a 15-year-old? Can you really give him much?
Do you remember one of the girls trying to get to the phone?
I don't know, she said, get to the phone. She was just saying that, get to the phone. She didn't say the name, but she said...
Do you remember one of the girls trying to get to the phone?
Nah, you just standing against the side of the wall. And I was running back to the window back and forth to see if the police were coming or something like that.
If you can remember, how many knives did you use?
I don't know, a lot. About six, I think, maybe.
Okay.
He doesn't sound like a teenager. He's actually extremely smart for his age, you know. He sounds like a grown adult, but he's 15 there. And he's not really showing any much remorse, right?
Right.
But then again, he's 15. So what do you do to a 15-year-old? Now, this is some of the confession. We're just going to kind of go through this real quick. His confession, he snuck through a small window, like I said, went in with a small knife. He says he was there to steal a VCR. However, detectives knew he was a peeping Tom. I mean, how would he know that this person had a VCR? He wasn't there to steal a VCR. Nothing was stolen from the house at all. That's not why he was there. But as a peeping Tom, why would he be in the house? Okay, so this is the confession that he wrote, and this is really important. If you can see this is his signed confession. It says, "And so on the night of July 27th, my mind was made up to murder."
Wow.
So he knew he was going in there to murder.
Premeditated.
Exactly. Now, he probably would have snuck up on Joan as she slept, but that's not what happened. He stepped on that table and it broke. Joan comes into the kitchen. Immediately, there's this awkward standoff, and Price, the 15-year-old, looks over. On top of the refrigerator is that brand new cutlery set. Hasn't even been used, just open. Has all 6 knives in it. And you saw how big he is. A normal person, a normal size, would grab one knife, but he's got the big hands. So he just grabs the whole thing. Because in a cutlery set, you have knives that are not really for cutting. You know, you have different knives, right? Different things. So he grabs the whole thing, and he's just going to figure it out as he goes along, which is what he did.
Wow.
This is from his confession.
Yeah, and then things just got hectic after that. She didn't say anything. She was just like trying, like soon as she seen me, like run the other way, break the other way, and I grabbed her. I was just like trying to kill her.
And you heard you heard his demeanor talking. So he doesn't really sound like he cares too much, does he?
No.
The eldest daughter wakes up, sees mom in the kitchen, struggling, fighting, trying to fight off this intruder. She starts shouting, "Go to the phone, get to the phone." That's when the eldest daughter runs to the phone and is intercepted by Price. Now, mom is already stabbed. She is dying, so she can't really do anything. But at this time, Price is running because the situation is really chaotic. Got to stab mom, got to kill this new person who entered the kitchen, 10-year-old. And now an 8-year-old's going to come in. That's even more. Plus, I got to run to the window every other few seconds to make sure the cops aren't coming. Mm-hmm. Because guess what? All right, go back to that. And so on the night of July 27th, my mind was made up to murder. Mm-hmm. Well, he already did this 2 years ago. And guess what? He got away with it. Mm-hmm. Think about that. Like, this guy lives in the neighborhood. He got away with it.
Yeah.
The police actually admitted they had nothing. If he didn't confess to it, they had nothing. They wouldn't even be able to convict him because they had no evidence.
They didn't have any evidence?
Because they're not, homicides do not happen in here. That's why they contacted the FBI.
But there was evidence. His blood, the shoes?
That was on the second crime scene.
Oh, you mean for the first?
For the first one, sorry. Yeah.
Got it.
He grabs the knives. When asked how many he used, quote, "I don't know, a lot, about 6. Mom starts fighting back, biting him.
She bit me. You can see the mark right there. She bit me there and I bit her back.
He saw the 2 girls and grabs the knives. He says he grabbed the knives and everything that I could see and put them in a towel and then put them in a bag and started chasing the girls down the hall. And that's pretty much how that story goes, right? So what's the sentence? Well, in Rhode Island, the sentence is set up to allow juveniles to learn their lesson and get back on the street, because most juveniles are not getting arrested for a triple homicide.
Yeah.
They're getting arrested because I had some pot. I had some pot in my Camaro. Okay, do community service, do a few years, get back on the street. Your record's erased. But now what do you do for someone who has a triple homicide?
They've never seen this.
They've never seen it. So they sentenced him to the maximum he could be sentenced with, which was 6 years.
Wow.
6 years in the Rhode Island training school. He was going to be out by the time he was 21.
Wow.
Before being taken away, and there's video of this, he shouts out to the cameras that are around the courthouse, and his high school friends are there too. He says, later, when I get out, I'm going to smoke a bomber, I guess like a joint.
Is that a drug reference that I don't know what that is?
However, he does say that he did have remorse and, because he wrapped them in a blanket and a rug, he said, quote, I didn't want to look at that. And he did say, I lived with the guilt till I got caught, because it was about 2 weeks before they caught him. He's actually, I think this is the only murderer in history. He's actually, that law to let juveniles do a little bit of time and get back on their feet, that was amended for him. The Craig Price bill.
Okay.
But here's the thing, like most...
It can't apply retrospectively.
There you go.
It's going forward.
There you go.
So he still gets out at 21.
There you go. So now there's a problem because detectives don't want him out at 21.
Too late. Well, I guess he's already been out for a long time, I guess.
So they start trying to figure out ways to keep him in there.
Wesley Prophet, a Massachusetts psychiatrist who examined Price on behalf of the state, wrote in 1990 that Price was a serial killer who was in a psychotic rage at the time of the murders. He is in dire need of extensive treatment, Prophet continued, and even then may not be in a position to be safely placed in the community.
Now, I kind of think this is bullshit. From what they did.
It goes back to, like, we've talked about this. Are you a juvenile and be tried like a juvenile? Or you're going to try somebody like an adult?
Which I think is kind of bullshit.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, I
because they, including the FBI, helped keep him in prison. All right.
I think, while I don't think the sentencing would be, because normally I'm like, life in prison for murders. I don't think that should be the same sentence for juveniles. That doesn't mean I think it should be 6 years, but you know what I mean? Like there's a balance of a different level of severity. It doesn't mean they don't serve any time though, in my opinion, or yeah.
The FBI profiler that wrote the book that we read from, Greg McCary, wrote a 6-page analysis to provide the courts, which I think is kind of...
6 pages isn't that long.
Yeah, but I think, like you said, I mean, they're trying everything they can to keep him in prison, and that's just not the law, Right.
He wasn't an adult. If he was 18, I would feel differently.
Exactly. But this analysis said that, well, he's a juvenile, so when he does get out at 21, his record will be expunged. So he would be a serial killer with an expunged record.
Oh, that's interesting.
Which means he would have access to getting firearms because he would pass a background check. It's kind of like these little nuances that's
a bad nuance. Okay, I think murder should be on the record.
Not according to Rhode Island law because they never faced this situation before. All right, he would have access to weapons. This is a crazy little case, isn't it?
This is crazy.
Yeah,
Martin did a great job.
So he would have access to weapons. There would be no parental control, which there was. He had great parents and they had no idea. I mean, they knew he was getting in trouble and they were disciplining him. They had sometimes you just can't help it, right?
Yeah.
There was no abuse. There was no nothing. So he would have no parental control. He would have greater mobility, which means he would have a car and he can increase the distance of killing people because if he is born with this serial killer trait, if there is one, you're basically letting the serial killer out to do this again,
Potentially. I don't know, John. Do you think rehabilitation is possible?
And not only that, he's been in prison, so he has an increased criminal sophistication. He knows more about how to, just hearing inmates talk about how they do things trains you up a little bit, right? From the unknown darkness, he'd shown no remorse and had resisted therapy. So whatever had caused him to kill in the first place hadn't been treated. He joked with his friends about his conduct disorder and told them he'd soon be back out to smoke joints. He wasn't good while locked up, so there was every indication that he would continue to cause trouble and be violent, you know? So, I mean, it depends on what you think. Like, do you think they should have went this route? Because they were really, like the detectives, every time he was up to get out, they would launch protests. They would do marketing campaigns. Do you want this guy living in your city? He showed no remorse. He calmly confessed to all 4 murders. He was going to be released at the age of 21. However, he is still in prison.
Wow.
Not because of things that the detectives done, but he's just not a good prisoner. He's violent. His latest prison extension was in 2018. He just got another 25 years for an attempted murder of another inmate.
Oh, wow.
He's just a very violent person. He refuses to go to therapy. He refuses to get help. So he is.
I was not expecting that.
So he is still in prison. Yeah, and
Wow.
That's him at the bottom. I don't know if you can see him, but
wow.
so I mean,
so he had the opportunity to be out.
Oh yeah,
but it really had nothing to do with.
He would say, and I think.
Wow.
I think the detectives did put him in there longer, right? Because they were looking at him like every mistake he made. It's not just trying to stab inmates and stuff. It's little mistakes. It's the fact that he didn't want therapy. Little things kept adding months and months and months, you know, these infractions, him acting up in prison.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, that almost makes it seem like, well, then did they set him up to fail?
Yeah, it does seem like that. And he does think that way too. And it does kind of look like that, honestly. But I mean, you know, he did try to kill someone not too long ago.
Absolutely. But I wonder what he was truly like at 21 when he could have gotten out, or during the years
he was
of
like
prison.
refusing therapy. He was joking that he was going to get out, type of stuff. I mean, yeah, he's a kid, but I don't. It's a weird, because all in all, before all these other sentences, he got sentenced to 6 years in prison, and it wasn't even a prison; it was a juvenile prison. 6 years, he would have been out.
It was like a school. It's
expunged. You know? The detectives really tried to extend that, and I think they were successful, you know, because they would like look at little infractions and the judge would roll, okay, you need another 2 years or whatever. Then after you're in there for so long,
well, I would say once that happens 1, 2, 3 times, then you're like, well, F it.
Yeah.
Like, they ain't gonna let me out, so what's the point?
Yeah. So,
because I wonder how small it started, and it's a little bit of speculation there, but
I mean, so all right. So here's the thing.
I don't know.
All right, let's say he doesn't have remorse at 15. He's a psychopath. All right, you can't help that you're a psychopath. You understand that? It's not like these people
then
wake
him
up.
Refusing therapy is significant.
Yeah, I know.
Or other because that could have led to medication to manage whatever he was.
Yeah,
if
exactly.
There was something like that.
So I don't know. It's a very interesting case. I really appreciate you recommending it, Martin.
That was nuts.
Yeah. So I guess that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed that. We'll be back on, obviously, tomorrow for headlines. Try to do a story Thursday. We are going to Charlotte on Thursday, so I'm not going to promise that. But you guys are why I'm here. You guys are why I'm here. We don't really advertise or Patreon and stuff like that because you guys are our friends. You guys are here all the time, and I love it that way. So I really appreciate you guys being here, and I hope you guys enjoy it. I don't know. So that's all we got. Let's go chill out. What time is it? Like 9:30?
It's bedtime.
Fucking hell.
It's almost 10 o'clock.
Shit. We'll be back tomorrow. I love you guys.
Thanks, Desiree.
And until next time, good night, you lovely, lovely people.
Kind of running this shit.